needs to be.
I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we will start with the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Here. What?
Treasurer. Well, don't call me.
Yeah, usually we just call
Just the
council
elected
for roll call.
Oh, come on, say here. Just say here.
Just say here.
Here.
Kaznecki.
Kaznecki.
Yeah, here.
If I mispronounce the name, please let me know. Kumbo?
Cumbo's here.
Miller? Here. Gotti?
How about just Scott?
No, I think she's Jennifer.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jennifer.
Got it.
Oh,
She's not here.
Okay.
okay, Scott, oh, Scotty, yeah.
Leave me up.
Sinkowitz?
Very good. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
yours.
here.
Metro?
Here. That was the simple name.
And Scott.
Here.
Guy.
All right, and this is our
Beam me up.
a new recording
Oh, that
secretary in the
before.
rotation tonight, Nancy Fisher, I believe, right? Yep, so.
Welcome
Welcome
aboard.
Aboard, Nancy. Okay. We're gonna open to the call to the public, but I thought what might work well, since he is here now, is to have Dave Donellan give us a quick overview of what the proposal is, what's on the exterior, and that may answer a few questions in advance, and then we'll open our call to the public and proceed.
Okay.
So,
Thank
if you're ready, Dave.
Oh, I'm ready. Thank you very much.
He's always ready.
Well, when you work on a project month after month, and it becomes a part of you, and that's what this project has. It's become a part of us to help you do something better for the community. And when we were first approached by Sharon Miller to take a look at the building, it was an issue of maintenance. You're spending quite a bit of money every year just trying to maintain the existing facility, the exterior, the finishes, and things like that. It slowly, as part of the discussion, it grew into discussions about how the building is used. The police department has changed over the last 25 years. The building itself is over 25 years old in terms of its remodeling. And there's a little bit of crowding going on in terms of the conference room. Of course, the conference room is suitable for about 5 or 6 people. But it's my understanding there could be 10 or 12 or even a few more standing around trying to listen to whatever conversation or meeting was going on. So we kind of represented that you could take a look at a variety of things with regard to renovating the building. Not only function, which in a sense is starting to be outdated, not the day-to-day office activities necessarily, but there are simple things like storage in the conference room and the day-to-day operations for the police department. Now you have to realize, in an office building, municipal office building, the life expectancy of an office building is, before it's really changed, is about 10, 12 years. And you're already at over 25. The other thing is, everyday office activity happens 8, 9, 10 hours a day, a couple of evening meetings a week, and that's it. But the police department is 24/7. So you really have to multiply the use of the police department by 3.5 to come up with the use of the activity of the rest of the building. In the conversation, there was some concern about, well, does the image of the building, if you're going to change it a little bit, can you change the image? And of course, an architect is not an artist, but he's half artist. He's also half pragmatist. And what we try to do as architects is bring practical solutions that are nice for the community. So in the discussions of what you see up there on the board is a revision to change the image of the building and resolve this whole annual maintenance problem. 2 ways to do that: change the material to something that doesn't have to be maintained every year, And the exterior insulated system is like a stucco system, and it still needs to be repaired and maintained on an annual basis. So we chose a material. It's a hardy board. It's a cementitious board. It's very resistant to weather, very resistant to mold and deterioration, very color fast. Putting a roof on it over the front staircase, which is a very difficult part of your architectural characteristic of this building, trying to get up those stairs. And you tried to solve it very early with the awnings. So maybe we could do something a little bit more permanent. So we presented a design concept of the facade of the building, covering that front entrance, opening it up a little bit. And of course, we went around to the north side of the building and did that. Then we talked a little bit about the conference room, and we created a set of plans that showed how you could add on without too much trouble with modifying the existing building. And of course, there was some early, oh yeah, the plans are right over here. And there was some early conversation about, oh, just change a few walls in the police department. Well, let me share with you, the police department has been changed so many times, so many little things, that none of the electrical, none of the switching, none of the lighting meets code. And the way you're supposed to come into a room, the way you're supposed to turn on lights, the type of lights that are supposed to match aren't matching. They changed the way they wanted to circulate. They wanted a little change with regard to how the rooms are set up. So we prepared some plans that resolved all of those issues for you. And so what you have before you on the board and on the construction drawings is the plans to renovate this building and make it usable now for another 25 years, easily. And we think it will work that way. Any questions?
Well, before we open to questions from council, I'm going to go to call to the public.
Okay.
And before I go that, just in terms of general presentation, we do have our village engineer here tonight too. So Mike, anything to add to that in terms of the general overall project or what we've been doing?
No, obviously, each year we've spent between $5,000 and $10,000 just to maintain the exterior. The stucco is not really a product that is germane really and holds up in Michigan. It's a good point.
It was certainly my recommendation, and when Sharon and I got together, to do something more permanent for the outside of the building. That's what precipitated the whole procedure. The only part of the project that is really civil engineering related is replacing the ramp up into the police station and onto the main floor of the offices. That ramp we've been patching for probably 10 years now as well, and it's all patched out. So we are replacing it, and council approved that as at their last council meeting. So otherwise, the rest is architectural.
All right.
May I add?
Sure.
And we are covering that ramp, so that will almost negate any more repairs on that ramp. That's good.
All right. With that, I'm going to open to the public, and I'll ask if you want to speak on it. Come on up to the microphone and give us your name and address and speak. Going once, going twice. Seeing none, I'll close the call to the public for now, and I'll open it to some council discussion and follow-up questions with Dave and or Mike and Sharon or Mike Condick.
Mr. President, could I mention that we did have one call today from Nancy Stefano on Glencoe that said she was in favor of the renovations.
All right, thank you. So I think I'd like to talk a little bit before we go to general discussion. To be honest, I had a little sticker shock when the final bill came in as to everything we did, and did a little looking back at how we got to this place, because we started down the path here in 2012, October 2012, when we got hit with yet another stucco bill. I think that one was going to be about $8,000. And we had some discussion about it, and a few people, and I think it was Ed really who recommended the hardy plank. We said, let's take a look you know, we're spending $8,000 a year on the outside. Does it make sense to keep doing that every year? 8,000, some years it's 5,000, some years it's 10,000. It's going to be an ongoing. As we went down that, as Dave described, we looked at a couple other building needs that we felt we had in terms of the overall construction. A couple numbers I wanted to put together to keep in mind as we talk about this, because this really is a capital expenditure. It's a long-term project. It's something that we're doing over the long term. The last building renovation we did was 1988. It was 26 years ago. The cost of that at the time was $325,000. In inflated numbers, that's $653,571 in 2014 numbers. That renovation was an addition, put the stucco on, did a lot of other things. But we got 25 years of pretty good service out of that renovation. I took a look at our annual stucco bill in terms of 25 years. What do we expect? I think we're likely to get maybe a little more out of that at the Hardy Plank, but I think looking forward more than 25 years is probably a bit much. But at $7,500 a year for stucco repairs, that's $187,500 over that period. I mean, it adds up, that bill, year after year, which is why we started taking a look at our options. In terms of the bids that we have and the bid, in particular from ACS Build, which is the low bid that we have before us, for all of the work that was proposed, police department renovations, conference room, basement, and the exterior, that adds up to $378,636. Over a 25-year period, that's $15,145 a year. So we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000 a year. And really, if we did just nothing on the outside, looked at it, did some of the other things that we think we really need to do in terms of conference room, police, a couple other things, that with just the annual stucco bill plus the other modifications probably comes in around $266,136 over that period, which comes in around $10,645 a year. So what we're really talking about in terms of 25 years, and I really want everybody, as we talk about this today, to keep in mind the long term of this proposal. We're talking somewhere in the difference, you know, $7,000, $8,000 a year, $15,000 a year. It's a big ticket. I had heart palpitations when I saw it, but I really want people to keep in mind that long-term perspective on the costs. So with that, I will open up to questions to Dave, I think is probably the place to start. And Dave, when they come up, we'll get you up at the mic. So, council?
I got one question, Dave, relative to, what are we doing relative to energy efficiency with this modernization, other than, I know windows, but as far as what are we doing to improve reduction in the usage of all the energy that we've got? Because I think when you add if we add the conference room and the storage room, that's going to affect the HVAC. We're going to have to upgrade that, things of that nature.
I believe the windows alone are going to save you a fair amount of money, but not as much as you would by adding that room alone. There'd be a significant offset, though. In terms of adding another layer of insulation, the energy code has already gone up another 20%. From 25 years ago, it's gone up 50 to 75%. So by putting the new surface on, you're actually increasing the energy efficiency of the building.
The Hardy board doesn't improve the insulation that much. I mean, the energy efficiency. I mean, it's better than the stucco that's on there now, but it's not like putting 4 inches worth of insulation in the walls.
That's true of the existing building, which should have been decent insulation package. But in the new one, we're meeting the current energy code.
So the Hardy board itself has some insulating foam underneath it when you apply it, right?
It itself has some insulating value and windbreak value, so.
Okay, but there's not added insulation.
there's no-
from
No,
that.
no,
It's just-
no added
foam,
insulation,
yeah.
no.
what about the HVAC system we have right now? If we're gonna add, how many more square foot onto the structure? Was it due to the loading of the existing system?
There is going to be some units for just the conference room. So the existing system will actually be lighter because its exposure is reduced with regard to that whole surface along the west side of the building.
Do we have a standalone, window air conditioner? What do we have for cooling? What are we doing
There's
for heating?
two through-the-wall HVAC units right now, and we're just repeating that.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have obviously been the one that has brought up a lot of things here. I guess, first of all, Dave, the building that you came up with is a beautiful building, there's no doubt about it. I think a lot of it, when an architect gets a chance to draw this, you start to create, just like a painter, you go on and on and on, and I think there's a lot of frills in here that I think is not something that we really need. I look at, we have all these doors that are activated on, by touching a button, those doors are all gonna go. And we have 12 windows across the front. I would have liked to seen 2 windows in each office instead of 12, to cut down on the loss of heat and still bring in more than sufficient amount of light, as long as we're doing the outside. And I think one of the things that I felt was, whatever you want to call it, just kind of lopsided. We started out with talking about putting in new windows and putting up hardy board and making some minor changes in the police department and all that. And we never got a bid on, never got a cost on that. And then you brought in your drawings here, and we looked at them, and the first thing I said, when I looked at them, I said, this is gonna be well over $250,000. We still didn't get a bid. Then we added this room, we added a basement, we added something else. So we've come in here 3 different times with 3 different procedures, and the only one we got a bid on was the last one at $350-some thousand. And the other thing is that I went around with a contractor who did Milford's building, we did it, and he also did the Farmington Police Department. And he says that in a couple places, I had the impression that the stucco was a lot worse than it is. Now, it might not be what everybody likes to look at, but that stucco is in pretty darn good shape. And I think a lot of it is that in the last couple of years, we caught some problems and liquidated them. But the other things that I look at is the metal roof. Over here and over here. Now, a metal roof is extremely expensive. If we didn't have the metal roof, we took that off and put 3-dimensional shingles on there, I think it would look just as good. But the pillars in the front, all the new doors, everything, to me, there's, and I'm not entering this this is general conversation, that a lot of this stuff that we're doing is in place, and we're doing more than a facelift, or it's to the farthest extent of a remodel. And the other thing is, and I mentioned this to John, if you look at the price of what we're looking at, and I don't claim to be a mathematician, but probably between close to 65 or maybe as much as 70% of the cost that we're putting into this building is for non-usable space. It's for aesthetics. The roof, the phony gables, and all that other stuff we're paying for. And the other thing is that I want to point out is 20 years ago, and I think I'm pretty close with this, we had a treasurer, an administrator, a clerk, and I think there were 2 women in the front and 1 part-time. We had a police chief who was in the building. And at one time, we had, I believe, 8 full-time officers and 1 dispatcher. Well, we don't have a clerk anymore, and we have 5 full-time officers, and we don't have a dispatcher. And I look at the building and I say, with 4 or 5 people working in here full-time, that, yes, people come in for things all day long and everything, but I don't really think that the building itself is gonna be the thing that people are gonna say, oh, I can't wait to move into Wolverine Lake, because they got such a nice-looking office. I think the lake is our main focus, probably police and the safety, and wherever the building falls in line, I don't want to speculate, but I don't think that's the number one thing. And another thing that I was looking at was that the room, making that room bigger for an occasional meeting. We've held negotiations down here, and there's been times when, you know, like maybe somebody's gonna come down here to get something, and we have to stop for a minute, but it's functionable. But, you know, I think the thing that sets me more than anything is the fact that the majority of the cost of this project is going to the exterior areas where there'll be no human beings in, there'll be no function taking place, it'll just be aesthetics. And I think it's a little bit overboard. I would have liked to seen something, this is at the, to me, the extreme. I would have liked to seen something in the middle. And as far as a storage space, I don't know what the law says, but I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork in there that could be discarded. I imagine after none, everything?
Everything that's there needs to be there. We do rotate, we discard, but we have to keep different years of paper. And some things we have to keep forever. So it is rotated, and there's dates on it when it can be destroyed. But then another box comes in its place.
Takes its place, yeah. But that's just my feeling that it's beautiful, but I think it's way overboard.
Okay, well, with that, because I don't know that I heard an actual question out of that, maybe I'll
I was,
I have a question.
In all fairness, I was going to say, let me open up to general discussion at this point, and actually I'll start with Pam.
I just have a question to kind of piggyback on what Ed has stated. Dave, is there an X amount of life expectancy for metal roof versus a 3D shingle roof? I mean, is a metal roof like 25 years and shingles is 15 to 20? And I know there's different grades of shingles even. So
Right.
what's the life expectancy of a metal roof?
the metal roof is 25, 30, and the
25.
shingle is about 15.
Okay.
And I'm sure that the comments that Ed is making are not all directed at me, they're general discussion
Yeah.
type items.
Yeah, and-
And-
But the cost difference between the metal roof and the shingle roof is probably about 8 to 10-fold.
I
One and
don't,
three
I'm not
quarters
sure
of
about
the
that
price.
one.
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
times.
3 times as
Three
much?
times.
Yeah, not
Okay.
8, yeah. Also, in the discussions early on, there was this desire to, well, what is the image of the community? Is it contemporary, or is it traditional? Is it a lake community, or is it a suburb? The ideas that are presented to you and the aesthetic image is a little bit more lake community. I refer to the coloring as something more like Martha's Vineyard
Yeah.
type of
I agree.
approach, as opposed to stark gray or off gray type thing and contemporary. Try to soften up the image. So yes, it's true. Aesthetics can be argued in a broad spectrum, from the very mundane to the very expensive. But I don't believe, from my professional point of view, that this is the very expensive. It is more expensive than the very mundane, But sometimes you have to pay a little bit more to get away from the mundane in order to get something that's nice. And by using hardy board, it's more than wood siding, but it lasts way much longer. So it's not a straight line to this thing is way too expensive. It is a little curve, and you got a little bit of play, and it's aesthetics is in the eye of the beholder, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and you have a council. It's not one vote, it's not my vote, it's not their vote, it's a group. So you have to make a group decision, and I think you can make a group decision.
Is the figure that I gave you, when I said approximately 60% of the cost of this is for non-usable space? Would you disagree with that?
I don't have numbers in front of me, but I don't believe it's that far off. Maybe it's a little less than that, maybe it's 50-50, if you look at it.
So
But-
50% facade, 50% sheer, minimal hardy board covering? Is that
No,
what-
I'm
that's
talking about
right.
usable space.
Usable space.
What we're spending on.
But
this,
hardy board is
the
a good decision.
Majority of the money is going on the aesthetics and the facelift and the roof and all that stuff versus space that will be used, the.
So what you have to
extending the
do is add value to aesthetics in order to make the true comparison. You can't just compare dollars, is all I'm suggesting. And do it.
So, let me go, I think John was next.
I guess as a comment on the issue of aesthetics and taste and functional cost is probably one of the most difficult things to get into the world. I mean, I don't disagree with you, Ed, in some sense, that maybe 300,000, 400,000, 150, who knows what that number is, might be too much to spend, but I do sense that there's money that's going to need to be spent.
Absolutely.
And so what combinations of aesthetics and interior improvements that we can put together in this building seems to be limited on the interior side. I think functionally, we have approached it in a way that we do need some extension of that conference room up there. We do need additional meeting room capability in the building, and yet there's only so much space we can deal with interiorly. I think what I've seen, you probably handled that in the appropriate fashion, as best as I can judge. But I don't know where you go with the question of 300,000 or 275 or 225. I think there's a time when you have to make a decision as a homeowner, as a business person, or as a municipality as to where you're going to stand back when you have to make a decision to go in and improve a building, to fix things that have accumulated over time, and try to set the tone as to what that building is towards the community itself. And I must say, I think you did a great job on that, Dave. I think we can argue all night long whether we should have 8 panes or 12 panes or 14 windows across, but I don't know if that's the council's function. I think the council's function is to stand back and really say, does this fit where we are and where we're going in terms of personnel needs, in terms of a functional design in the interior for not only council, members of our staff, but also the community. I mean, when I was walking around looking and thinking, well, this building's gonna look great, and then you look down the line and you see, you know, a police garage that's probably not gonna be in conformity, and then you look a little bit further and you really see a shed building. We're still approaching it in, can't use the word, but let's say in a half-blank direction.
Well, John, I will say that at least what we've got right now, that picture doesn't show, but we are including the police garage
Okay.
in what's in front of us.
All right,
So the big DPW garage
I
is
saw that
still
in the
down there.
first rendering, and then as I've watched these renderings come on, I know that was a question of whether.
Look at the
we
top
were or
one,
not.
the very top one.
I'm sorry I'm so that far behind on looking at it.
That's
I
in
guess
this,
as I
that's in
was-
this package too. sir.
Huh?
That's in this package.
It's a little confusing because we've had various versions, and
Well,
that's kind of our big one.
And as I came over for a couple other meetings, I was thinking, geez, is there some other way to approach it? It's gonna cost more money, and I was just talking with some of the fellow councilmen here, whether or not the the police garage, if it was, if there was another police garage built in front of it, at, I guess, additional cost, could we abandon some of the current police garage and use that for additional office space and additional conference room and not bust this room out? And would that give us not only a larger presence in the village as well as a, what do we think about a 5,000 square foot facility maybe for community activities? So I don't know, is there, putting the money aside, are we thinking out of the box and all of the other things that have to go on? I know we're tweaking here and tweaking there and trying to get an approach, but I wonder if there's a bigger tweak to look at and say there's other things we could do here to add space, not necessarily a great deal more cost, but maybe rather than bumping and grinding our way into a solution, maybe there's a way to back up and look at, see if there's a better solution. So, I'll let you take it over, Ron. It looks like you have something to say. I mean, I don't want to take us back to square one. I really do believe we're in the right direction. I do believe we have reached a place that we need to be as a council to consider this kind of improvement to our community.
My own personal sense of it is that a build-out or move-around of the police garage and building on another facility is probably out of the scope of what we're doing and really would add substantial cost. I mean, nice though it would be to have a, genuinely large facility. We've got Richardson Center, we've got some other options out there for times when we need the larger space, so.
Okay.
The Commerce Township building is huge, and we certainly can use,
Oh, you're talking about their hall, I mean, their actual.
Yeah, their actual meeting
Yeah.
hall. Yeah, we could use that if we need.
Look at the building they built, and half the time you walk in there, you can,
Shoot a gun through.
yeah,
it.
shoot a gun down there and not hit anybody. It's the
that
overkill.
was overbuilt.
Yeah. Well, then how do we back up into the discussion that we want to reach a conclusion on tonight? I guess I can fall away from that and say that we now really do have in front of us a design interiorly and exteriorly that we need to consider. Functionally, it sounds like it's finishing the interior requirements, if everybody's in agreement with that. Now it's a question of what do we erase and change to change the aesthetics to bring the price down? Is that really what we need to conclude at this meeting? Is it any more complicated or less complicated than that?
I think it's basically a simple question of, is what we have, we've got a bid on us.
Yeah.
Do we want to proceed down this path? Do we want to back up some level and take a look at other items? And that's really the question. I think Ron was going to say something about Ron and then.
Well, I agree a lot with John's point about, especially regarding, is tweaking at councils, is that what we're supposed to do? 10 windows versus 12 versus 14, and I agree with you, that's not I mean, I don't expect this body to sit here and tweak every little nuance of this potential construction. I don't think that's our job, and I think it'd be a total misuse of our time. I like what Dave's done. I think the renderings look great. Tying it into a lake village, I think is appropriate and spot on. And I think in terms of utility-wise, I think we do need bigger space added for that conference room. With all due respect, I think that's totally inadequate. If I was going to tweak, I'd say it'd be nice to have some flexibility where we could maybe take a large room and split it, maybe have like 2 simultaneous meetings or something, one-on-one meetings or whatever. But short of that, to say that we don't need anything else, given the security concerns, the evidence concerns that the police face, yes, we have 5-time officers and we have 3 part-time officers working up to 32 hours a week. It makes sense that this building is, in my opinion, in dire need of more than a facelift. I think it's not just a case of putting hardy board over. I mean, the windows are outdated. A lot of the functionality of this building is not there. And regarding the things that aren't aesthetics or whatever, I mean, I believe that a work environment is a contributing factor to efficiency and long-term employment and right down the line. I think it does impact Lincoln Point morale, like you said. I think it's important. I think, you can't, and I don't believe, like Dave suggested, that it is, in the scope of things, maybe it's more extravagant than the bare minimum, but I don't consider it over the top. I really don't. And I don't think it's anywhere close to what I think was an overshoot when Commerce built their building. So, I probably have some more comments, but for now, I'll let that stand.
Okay. Go around. Anybody else?
Yeah, a couple of minutes.
Okay, Pat.
Further what Ed said, I'm agreeing with Ed said. Like I said, we started out with something simple. We wanted to do some fixes, but it seemed like we put a lot of fluff in this thing, okay, that I don't think we necessarily need to make this a better working environment, okay? I mean, the metal roof, the dormers, the additional windows, I really don't think we need that. I mean, the outside, yeah, we gotta take care of the outside. We gotta keep the building package, but, I didn't get a really good answer. How much, we're gonna improve the energy efficiency by 30 or 40 or 50%. Hey, yeah, it's gonna be a heck of a lot more cost effective to do, but I just think we've gone to the nth degree, and I don't think we should have gone that far. I mean, the police department needs some additional space, the conference room, yeah, I can appreciate some of that, but I mean, the police department takes priority as far as getting them what they need. I don't know how we can get around that without doing the whole thing. Some of the comments made about it's not up to council to tweak the dollars, but we're controlling the money, okay? We're spending the taxpayer dollars if we decide to go ahead and do this. And that's our job, to make sure we monitor that, okay? Just so we don't do things foolishly. And I just think, I'm not saying we have to go back to square one, but I just think it started out, as Ed said simple, and it's keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And comments that Captain Ellsworth made at the council meeting about, we need to think about the police department. I can appreciate some of the other things that we've done, but I just think we need to, I'm not saying go back to square one, but I just can't, and I've heard comments from village residents. I know one of my neighbors, I showed her the plans, and she was the one who called and said she supported it, but I talked to other residents who just can't see that us spending that kind of money right now on this building, okay? I mean, I heard comments about, a couple guys said to me about, why don't you fix the boardwalk and get that thing looking nice instead of spend money on this? I mean, yeah, it needs a little bit of repair, it's not falling apart, but, I mean, those are the kind of comments about where we're directing our funds, okay? I just don't think, we have to do something, but I just don't think we have to do it to this nth degree.
All right. Go to Ed, and then I think I'll go, and we'll see who else. So go ahead, Ed.
Like I said, we know that something has to be done with the buildings. Windows need to be replaced. The conference room, it seems to be a focal point for most of the people here. I don't have a problem with that. I think putting in a basement below it is kind of, okay, I know it's space, but once the police department gets squared away, they can buy a safe and cement it into that room and bolt it to the wall, and they can keep all their evidence right up there in a two-door safe against the wall. But, just putting in a basement that, especially along the side here, I don't know if any of these utilities have to be moved, but I think that's a little bit, I won't, not necessary. I can see the office, it seems like, I'm not in the office every day, that Sharon and others seem to think that expanded space would be very beneficial, I can go along with it. But what I would like to see is that, I know Dave's put a lot of time in this, but, why not get basically the same thing, but with a little less frills, like Pat had said. All we've gotten is this, and this, you can call it what you want, it's not a Chevy or Buick, it's pretty much a Cadillac on the exterior.
Let me
And
ask
I
you-
think,
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Can I finish?
I mean,
I think if we went to something a little bit more basic and look at it, and you say, well, is this a Cape Cod community, or is it you go through the village and you see everything. You see one house that looks like a farmhouse, you see one that looks like a mansion on Orchard Lake, and then you see another house that's just a tri-level or a ranch. So, the community, it has a complete mixture. One thing I wanted to ask the person who made the bid, I've heard different stories, but obviously hardy plank is a heavy material, and it's very durable. You have to paint it, though.
You can get it pre-stained.
You can get it pre-painted, but it still needs to, what, about every 4 or 5 years usually needs?
I built my home in 2005 with hardy plank, and this year it needs to be painted.
Okay, so, just so everybody knows that.
You can get it pre-colored from the manufacturer, you never have to paint it again.
Yeah.
You can caulk it.
Right.
So we're talking, and what we're talking about here is the pre-stained that you wouldn't need to paint in the long run. It would potentially occasionally need caulking on the
Right.
outside.
That's always been.
But is it true when you put up hardy plank, because there's probably about 1.5 inches of styrofoam against the building, and then there's the stucco. Are you planning to take all that styrofoam off?
I believe that's how the plans show
Plan
it.
calls to pull all of it down.
Because you can't hang
You have
the
to put a
weight of the
substrate,
hardy
plywood.
board on the styrofoam.
Right.
Now, that, I'm bringing all this up for Pat's point.
Insulation.
If you take all that inch, I think it's 1.5 inches. It looks like it's 1.5 inches. So for sake of argument, it's 1.5 inches. When you take all that off, we're gonna lose some R value on the building. Are you, in these plans, I didn't see that, and maybe I missed it. Are we gonna add insulation on the outside before we put the hardy plank back up?
I don't think that that's on the plans.
Okay, so
It's not.
to your question is, we're gonna lose
Yeah, we're
R
gonna be,
value, not gain.
yeah, thank you.
We might gain at the quality of the window, but in the walls, we're gonna lose.
I think the R value is somewhere around 2 of the foam board that's on the outside. It's a standard ingredient in a stucco or ephes system, that foam board. So you're going to lose a couple of Rs.
Putting
Were
up
you
that
gonna,
substrate, though,
were
you're
your
gonna make it
intentions to
tight.
put Tyvek on the building?
I think that's, the Tyvek is, I believe, in the spec, and that, as it was mentioned, I think you're going to end up with a tighter building as far as wind penetration with the hardy board and the Tyvek system over the current stucco ephes system.
And my last,
Go ahead, Adam, go ahead.
last question for Dave, and then I'm done. Dave, I know you put a lot of time and effort into this, and like I said, nobody can say it's not a good-looking building. That's not the point. Would it be conceivable that with the space that we're trying to get, the office space and the police department and everything, that there's anything that you could do to maybe take some of that facade out of there and still give us a different look? You know, I mean,
Creativity is not instantaneous, so I'm not going to commit to something like that standing up here.
Yeah. It is worth actually mentioning, though, that when we first discussed this, he did come back to us with a few different concepts. This was really the thing we asked him to pursue.
That's correct.
We did look at a couple other things. We thought of the options, this was the best-looking, most attractive option.
I have a question for council, basically. Is this discussion really, is it really about our values and this, I mean, is that really gonna be the impact? Or is it basically political and people don't want to be, come forward to spending money? I mean, what are the frills and fluffs that Pat and Ed are talking about? Taking a window away, 8 windows versus 10? You know, I mean, seriously, what are you looking to change? Either
I said it right from the beginning.
Either torpedo this project entirely, but to go on about our values and there's too many windows and this and that, it just seems to be like, okay, it's like a death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, if you're set against this project, then vote no. Let's have a vote and knock it down.
Hey, Ron, I can appreciate what you're saying, but yeah, that's not all about our, but if you're spending this kind of money on this building, okay, let's come out in the end, it's gonna be a more energy efficient building, it's gonna cost us longer in the long run for energy efficiency and cost to heat and cost to cool, okay? A metal roof is fluff, okay? You don't need a metal roof that costs 3 times a shingle roof, okay? Just to make it look pretty. You don't need these additional dormers on there. That costs money, all right? I'm saying you could get the building and make it, seal it up and get the hardy board on it and put the right kind of windows in it to make it energy efficient. But, you know, some of this stuff, granted, we got Dave going down this path, and maybe I wasn't thinking early on that, you know, let's try to curve it in before we get this far, but now we're this far, and now's the time to look at it. We're to the point in time, if we want to go ahead with it, in the end, it's going to cost us nearly $379,000, okay?
Okay, so not to interrupt you, Pat, but, okay, so steel roof and a couple dormers and so on, so is that the extent of the fluff that we're talking about? And everyone else is okay with the expansion of the conference room and the blue hardy board and you know, canopy over the ramp and all the other things? If everything else is fine, then let's make an adjustment. Okay, say, hey, we love this plan, we understand the budget, but we want to take the dormers out and we want to take the steel roof out. Takes it from 350 to 300, say. I don't know what it would take it to.
Well, the way I see it,
would that
if you
appease?
look at the quotes here, right, I mean, we're talking roughly $75,000 to add on to the conference room. I don't know what the figure would be to do the police restoration work in there.
It ended up on
not-
here
it's
being
not.
fairly small.
It
It was
wasn't
about
broken out,
9,000.
yeah,
and a
$9,000 or
little bit,
$10,000. I mean, we're spending $8,000, somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 a year, roughly on the stucco maintenance alone. I mean, we're gonna have maintenance anyways, but, I mean, if that's the case, we can do that, do the upstairs, we're gonna have roughly $100,000 into it, and leave the stucco, right? I mean, if that's what we're worried about doing, I mean, I think that this is a really nice looking project, to tell you the truth. But if we're really worried about a couple $100,000 in the scheme of things, I mean, leave the stucco, we're still gonna spend $8,000 a year on it.
Yeah, I think with
But
just
I
the
think we're
stucco,
silly
we're back at
to
spending a lot of money.
just do, you know, just do some outside stuff. you
And-
know,
and then-
in
and then-
additions, without doing the rest
But
of it.
without doing stuff upstairs that might make the running of the village more efficient, whatever. I
We're
mean,
still gonna have the windows that are gonna be leaking. I mean, they're gonna be old.
So I
So-
think
I mean,
we're getting close to the point of having to have a motion on the floor. Let's get a motion on the floor. Let's have discussion around a specific motion. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the awarding of the bid to ACS Build, Inc. for a cost not to exceed $378,636 as presented, and then go into discussion on that motion. Do I hear that motion?
I do.
Motion Kaznecki, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second Nedrow. Discussion, and I'll start. I've gone back and forth on this project a couple times as we've gone along the ways. Having spent much of the last 8 years trying to squeeze every single penny I could out of every single thing we had, you know, it's a big ticket bill. But when I look at it, when I look at what we have on the outside, when I look at what we have on the building, when I look at what a scaled down or slightly scaled down project would still cost in terms of it, in the long run, over the 25-year expectancy of this project, we're really talking $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 a year, more or less, in a village with a $1 million plus, $2 million plus per year budget. And when I look at it, you know, we do really need these things. That conference room, I've been meeting up in that conference room now for 15 years. It's not big enough. The police really do need the extra space down here. We need the renovations. We could go back and find a totally scaled down slap hardy board on the side project, and I think we're still going to be at a fairly expensive level. And I think when we look at it, we're not going to be happy with the building that we have.
Agreed.
But to address their concerns, I should say theirs, but to address the concerns about maybe the project is too extravagant, can we isolate exactly what the frills are and put a cost on it? Maybe modify it some to appease everybody, to get some sort of a universal consensus here? I mean, listen, I support this project, but I don't want to cause, you know, the fiduciary responsibility is, next to public safety is top on my list of my responsibilities as a council person. I think we probably all share that in some degree, that, you know, that's why we're here. So it's not like we're spendthrifts or want to spend a boatload of money or certainly spend money foolishly. And I don't want to do that either. You know, if there's legitimate concerns, and I shouldn't say legitimate concerns, but if we can address those concerns by maybe modifying the design somewhat, so it doesn't reach the point of extravagance that is putting some of the votes in question, you know, I'll entertain that discussion if it's an answer that's easily or relatively easily retrieved.
So here's what I think we would be, though, with that, in terms of the legality of having bid it out, and in terms of what we've done so far. We would have to go back, ask Dave to redo a certain amount of plans at a certain amount of architectural fee. We would then have to go out to bids again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by the time we go through that process again, we've probably spent $10,000–$15,000, and maybe we come in with something less, maybe we come in with something more, but I think we end up going into expenditures that route also. And we're still back at having to make a decision on, instead of a $378,000 project, a $340,000 project, or a $330,000 project. So that's why as I look at it, we have this as an alternative. I think it's a good plan. I think it's a beautiful design. I have heard from other people who really like the design. Didn't have in-depth discussions with them about costs and hardy board and police and bump out and all of that, but everybody I hear from who has seen that likes that vision of what the village is.
With that, I agree. I mean, I've heard nothing but positive comments about yourself.
How could you not like that?
Yeah. And
How could you-
I don't think
I
we're
wish I
arguing.
had a house that looked like that. But getting back to that, if you recall, I was the one who probably brought it to council or instigated the idea of doing something with the building, with the hardy board and stuff like that. And like I said, we started out here, and before we got a bid, it was, everything had been added on and added on. What I want to ask, is your motion for the extended office room and the basement and everything else?
The motion we have before us
Complete.
is for the
And
complete.
Don't get me
the
wrong,
complete
and
project.
I hope you're not getting the wrong impression. I feel this building needs something after 20-some years. It needs work. Does it need all that? No. And we're spending taxpayers' money and our own. And I think with all the other stuff that I think of in the village here that, you know, is coming to play, and I just think maybe we've got a little bit more money, we don't know what to do with it, and we're gonna spend it on here. But as far as just putting a hardy plank and windows in the building, no, that's not enough. There's other things that can be done to make it look nice. But like I said, I think there's, when I can calculate that over 50 or 60% of the money that we're spending is not for usable space, it's for aesthetics, I look at that and I say, no, wait a minute.
Well,
we gotta back up.
where does the hardy board fall in that?
That's what I was gonna
Which
say.
side of the ledger does that fall? Is that usable space or is that fluff? That's
No,
what I would like to know.
no, that's not fluff. But when I look
It's not
at,
usable space either.
Let's make sure we've got what Ed is talking about here, and then I might ask Dave a question, so go ahead, Ed.
yeah, the hardy plank and everything, but when you start looking at, you know, all these doors that we have that open up electronically, we're throwing them away, we're putting in new ones, the pillars, the peaks that have nothing in them, the phony roofs, the phony windows up on top. Yeah, nobody can argue that that's not a good look, a beautiful building. And I think it's a beautiful building.
I just question whether that represents 60% of the cost.
Well,
Is that-
and
is
let me
that-
at this point,
There we go, yeah.
we have our architect, we actually have our builders here. We can
Maybe
we can maybe get some insight here.
And we'll do a tag team here. It took me a while to understand what Ed was trying to say. And I am going to take the position that what he's saying, two things. One is, you'll have to go stop everything and go through this long process if you want to change the aesthetic design of the building. But you can, the actual percentage that Ed's talking about, I don't believe is 60%. Now that I understand the basis of the question, the real aesthetics is only in that porch, and it can't be 25, 30% of the price that you're looking at. Everything else is necessary, and it's bland.
Now.
You take that
all
off,
this is
it's bland.
necessary.
No,
All
those
this-
are minor. Those are built on the ground and put up there. You're really asking for the porch facade gable end to be modified. That's a difficult thing to do. That's the aesthetics. That's the fluff. But it does not represent 60%.
If the metal roof,
Wait
the
a second, what-
contractor said it was cost 30%
Oh,
more.
no, I have no
then
problem.
it's-
That's
then
a simple solution.
then
I
make
agree,
some shingle,
Pat.
okay?
I
That's
agree.
30%. I don't know if that's $20,000 versus $5,000 or what it is, but I mean, is that something that's, yeah, it looks nice.
Hold on a second, Pat. Let's go to the builder first, because I think we were going to, I think he was going to say something, then I'll go back to you.
No problem.
Then you're talking twice the load expectancy too. So you're gonna replace the shingles twice.
Look at some of these metal roofs on
Is this live?
barn necessary.
You're now Wolverine Lake Live.
Wolverine Lake.
We're live.
Nationwide.
Yeah. I may have the information here in my log book, but a quick answer. As we say, the metal roof might be 3 to 4 times more expensive than a shingle. The bigger the area of work, the smaller the cost. So, this is small roof areas. Shingle, I don't know how many square are on this.
I'm not sure
you know.
the exact amount, but I agree that there's some, say, gingerbread on it.
Yeah, that's our term in
That's
the
our term in our
industry
office,
for what you're speaking of.
So, I mean, just the modification of going to a shingle roof over metal, you might be able to take that savings and, say, entertain changing out the insulation in the walls and going to a closed-cell foam, which would seal the building up. It would give energy efficiency to the building. So you might be able to save that money and use it in a much better manner to help achieve a more efficient building.
You talking about insulation that you
The-
spray
yeah,
in
well,
foam insulation?
Yeah, and it's not the stuff sold at Home Depot in a can, but
Yeah, I
it's a
understand.
closed cell, and we use it on a lot of new homes. And I've had remodeled a ranch down in Livonia, and we built a couple buildings for this owner and did his home, and he called me up and said, my heating costs have been cut in half with the addition to the home. So we put a master bedroom, an additional bedroom onto the home with master bath, and about 600 square feet off the back of his home, and his new heating bills are actually lower than his old house. But again, it took pulling the drywall, pulling it, foaming it, so maybe that's a better way to spend the money. If you're considering spending that full $376,000, okay, save some money on the roof and use that same money in a more practical way.
Just quick question, what's the lifespan, again, of shingle versus metal roof?
It was accurately said, I believe about 15 versus 25. You might get 30 out of a metal roof. Metal roofs last a long time. You could even go further. Depends on how much maintenance. Do you have somebody up there power washing it, checking on it, making sure that, the wind hasn't done anything to it over winter. Again, it's the preventative maintenance will extend the life. So definitely 15 to say 25.
I don't have exact numbers here. They're all kind of mixed. If I had to hazard a guess, I'm going to say that metal roof might be a premium of 20,000, might, and that's could be on the high side. But to try and give some reference to all of this discussion.
Okay, so in that neighborhood, we won't hold you to this specific.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
with a little time and a few phone calls, I could break it out exactly for you.
So, there's a spot where we're talking about, the shingle maybe 10, the metal maybe 20, the metal, or the shingle maybe 8, I don't know. but, the metal maybe lasts twice as long, probably save some small amount of money on the roof, but over 25 years, are we really actually saving that much money?
I would like to point out, the metal roofs are becoming more popular. They do last, and they do have a very distinctive look. It's something that you're not going to get out of a shingle roof. And I don't want to just gloss over that point. Yeah, a shingle roof lasts a long time, and it's less money. But the metal roof's going to give you a certain look.
Okay, we go to John next.
Well, I was just going to go back to where Ron was a while back, maybe to construct an approach to this whole question. I sense, I could be wrong, that council in general agrees that the extension is necessary and agrees that in general what's been done interiorly is necessary, or is agreeable anyways. And so if you take that, all of a sudden we are back outside in terms of aesthetics, correct? So now is now the time to get the windows addressed and other items which are value related. If it is, I guess then, we really have to decide if what we've had presented to us in terms of how it looks aesthetically and what they're going to do with the windows, which when you pull a window, you have impact on the interior walls and et cetera, right? So if we're at that level, then the next step is what are we going to do with the walls and the exterior itself? So then we're going to get finally to the fluff. Is it going to be metal or is it going to be ash? I guess that's the way I'd like to see this council make this decision and just move
I like
on.
it. I just looking to identify and put a ballpark cost on what is considered fluff.
Fluff, yeah. Is it
And then-
50,000 of this?
Yeah, is it 50,000?
80,000? I mean,
And then
what's the number that
use your
is
imagination of
painted
what it
here?
would look like with shingles, and then without as many windows maybe, or whatever.
Or gingerbread. I think what we're talking about here, let me see if I'm capturing the total sum of it, is roof, just flat shingle versus metal with the dormer,
Mhm.
and porch, either the large covered porch or going to something more like a permanent metal coverage or new awning or something that's reflects the current contemporary style of building, not that sort of concept with hardy board on the outside. I mean, the hardy board is a very different look on the outside, so.
And requires a lot of cost. We've heard that they have to strip down and get back down to basic framing. And you're gonna wrap the framing and then you're gonna do the hardy board. Well, there's expense there. So do you stick with the stucco just so you don't have to face that expense?
Well,
I don't think that handles the question of what this building should look like in our community.
Yeah,
We
and
see it
beyond-
every day, so.
Beyond that, if you stick with the stucco, you're looking at, over the next 25 years,
Stucco's stick.
187,500, give or take 50,000 either way.
Well, plus you're gonna have maintenance. We have to be honest. I mean, the hardy board, I think 10 or 15 years from now is gonna weather. It'll probably,
If it weathers
the
it-
30-year guarantee on the impregnated?
I would have to look at what Hardy says, but I mean, worst case, you paint it.
Yeah.
And, mine was unpainted, and I built in 2005, and I'm ready to paint this year.
Yeah.
So, it lasts.
But John's point's true, though. It's not like you're gonna spend $8,000 on the stucco and then nothing on the other. I mean, there is maintenance costs regardless of what we do on a continuing basis. To say otherwise would be misleading, certainly.
What John is saying is like the old car commercial, you can pay me now or you can pay me later, okay?
Yeah.
If I had to, the gingerbread, maybe 15% tops, maybe 10 at minimum of what you folks are talking about on the project.
The whole project?
Well, again, the things you pointed out, roof, some windows, dormer. I mean, just a couple hours in an office in front of that binder, and I can be even more specific, but understanding it, that's kind of where I feel you're right about that 15%.
I don't want to conflict here, but that's not changing roof lines, okay? Just trying to, okay, substitute shingles for metal. Maybe do, something with windows, trying to take away, as we call it, some of the gingerbread. But every time we make a move, we're starting to take away some of the aesthetics that have been built in. So there is a trade-off. It's, but again, just trying to give some reference to the committee this evening about cost. Yeah, we can go back with a scalpel and, cut a little here, cut a little there. What are we going to end up? Well, like I said, just so you have an idea, you might take 10% out of this project. Is that a number that everyone says, wow, okay, let's do that? Your building's not going to look the same.
What's it gonna look like? That's exactly
Yeah, it's
right.
not going to look the same, guaranteed.
You can't start taking out all that facade and then all that, all those gables and all those roof lines in the front of the building up on the top here. And remember, we got a flat roof here that we're told that we might get 15 years out of it. So, there's going to be maintenance on a building no matter what.
Right.
No matter how old or how new.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's obvious. But again, my point is that, again, and I've said it more than once, it's a beautiful rendering. It's extremely costly, and I don't think that the building has to be such a dramatic change, and so much of the stuff is being, like I said, gingerbread, whatever you want to call it. But
Well, that's
why don't
what,
we call for the vote, and we'll see if council wants to spend $370,000, and this is what they want.
I would prefer to sustain the discussion a little bit longer, because what I'm trying to get at is, I'm trying to address the concerns that Ed and Pat both have. Okay, there's 15% of fluff,
No, there's more, I'm sure there's more than 50.
Well, let's,
But anyway.
then that's what this discussion is for. Let's find out whether we're
Let's find out
buying
what it
something
is.
that we really
We
want.
just said it was.
Yeah.
10 to 15%.
Yeah, well, do you want to take away the entrance, lower entrances? Do you want to pull away the front entrance? Do you want to get rid of the?
Cut the covered walkway over
Yeah, and get
the
rid of
ramp.
the, I guess we can identify that and give
Cut
our
a lot of stuff
architect a
around.
direction. Or do we just want to leave the design basically what it is right now and hardyboard it with new windows? I mean-
I'm not a designer, I don't know what it takes, but, the front of that building right there coming in doesn't look anything like what we had. It's completely different. So not only is everything torn out, but all new doors, all new windows, the pillars, the peak, and then the metal facade on the side. And then if you look at the front of the building, all the way across here, there's that metal facade.
Mhm.
Nothing underneath it, it's hollow, and it's got those 3 little dormers up there. Again, I can't argue the point that it looks great. It's a beautiful design. I just don't think we have to spend we have to do all that to make this building. I think the inside of the building, everybody agrees, is pretty much what has to be done. I'm not crazy about putting a basement out here, going through all that, but what the heck,
I don't disagree with you in a lot of respects, that I really don't. And I'm just looking to address the concerns that maybe that are legitimate. How much will it change if we knock some stuff out? Those are questions I have, answers I like to hear. That's why I don't think we're ready to have a vote, in my opinion.
I think those are questions maybe you can ask Dave, how it's going to look if you start removing things from the style of the building.
There's a difference between removing architectural elements and modifying or changing materials. The biggest change will be modifying the architectural elements. And if you get rid of the gable end, you've completely changed the whole design. And it's gone back to its, whatever we call this style, shed roof style. And,
Be shed roof style with a hardy board on it, right?
right. To change the aesthetic image, you're looking at the gable ends. Whether you have metal roof or a good shingle roof, that's an easier question. There's a proximity there. There's a cost there, and there's a life longevity there without changing the aesthetics too much. Whether there are dormers up there or not, the dormers will bring it back to a residential image. No dormers will leave it more of a shed roof contemporary image. I don't think there's a lot of money in those dormers, the way they will get installed. But those things can be checked. If you're not trying to change the design wholesale, but you want to check a few different materials, the motion I heard, not to exceed, will allow the administration and the architect and the builder and the engineer to sit at the table, rattle off 6 or 8 items that we really want to test, and come back with, oh, okay, yeah, you take off, and you save this much. But if you put back this insulation, you add back this much. You'll be able to save. I truly believe you're going to be able to save some money. Is it significant? I don't believe so, but it will be a savings. We'll bring that 375 down to something. It won't go below 300, I'm sure, but it'll bring it down to something. But again, you're looking at the policy, you're looking at the big picture, not to exceed. Let us do a little value engineering, bring back a report, put the shovel in the ground.
That to me would be a pretty good way to proceed if we want to go ahead with this. Have them all talk, see if there are any changes we can make, anything that we can do to get a little more value out. We're here, we'll have a builder lined up, we can negotiate some of the items, and they can come back to us at the next council meeting if we proceed with whatever the recommended changes would be.
John, I guess if we're looking to save $15,000 or $20,000, then I think it's a waste of time. But I'd be curious, how many of us sitting at this table expected to pay close to, now, we're not done with this project. Every builder knows there's always a prize. Whoop, I didn't know there was a wall there. Or, oh my God, this electrical here. So let's round it off to it's going to be around 400. How many thought that we were going to spend $400,000 on this building when we first started talking about that? I bet you not anybody sitting here. $400,000. We were thinking, boy, when Ed said 250,000 or more, he was probably on drugs. And I was low. So keep that in mind. But if this is, if the majority of council, let's either have a show of hands or take a vote, because why go through all this if it's going to still, this is what council wants? I don't, but I'm one of 7. So if we take a vote and that's what you guys want, then you can, tell everybody in the community that this is what you decided on. Because to nickel dime.
To frame the discussion that way, it just seems to be, okay, this is what we want. Well, what do you want? Well, I don't like this, I don't like that, this is fluff, this is frills.
You're making it sound like there's nothing I like. I told you that I thought it was beautiful, but when I look at all that metal up the side, yeah, so we're taking a semi-contemporary building and making it look like Cape Cod. Okay? You can make a Chevy look like a Cadillac if you put enough junk on it. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of stuff in this that is aesthetics. If you think we need all that aesthetics to make this the focal point of the community, I don't. We'll spend our $400,000.
So wait a second. I think I'm hearing a couple things from Ed that I don't necessarily agree with. One of which is that the majority of the cost in this project is the aesthetics.
I didn't say the majority, a large percentage of it is.
Ed, you've said that a lot of times tonight.
Okay, a large percent of it is.
Well,
At least 50%.
15% according to the builders.
Whatever we do, and I think, Ed, if I'm capturing what you would have preferred to see, it would have been hardy board, very simple changes, basically the same architectural design on the building.
Yeah, I would have, the entrance we have with maybe, the building extending out and a couple of pillars and everything, but the doors are gone, these doors are gone, this whole front's changed. Like I said, we're beating a dead horse.
And to throw a couple whip marks on it, I think though, if if we make all those, we could make those changes, we could go back, get all those changes. I think we're still looking at a bigger bill than any of us would have expected, would have liked. I'm going through home renovations both on my own and the house my in-laws just bought, and it's more than I expected, it's more than I would have liked. It's pretty much always that way anytime you do one. That's part of one of the reasons I wanted us to get a bid on this, so we actually have genuine numbers. And I still come back to it when I look at it, it's more than I expected, it's more than I would have liked. I think we could probably nickel and dime around it, and I don't think that's really the right way to go, because I think we do have a good unified architectural style for the building, and that's architecture dies in the nickel and diming of it. And when I look at it as a long-term project, as a long-term cost for the village, I look at it, and even if we're spending, 15-20% of this on the design elements, on some of the architectural elements, I think it's still a good investment for the village. I don't think it's going to be the focus of the village, but it is the first thing somebody sees when they actually come in here. When I came to the village, first day to actually look at houses in the village, I drove around and I drove up to the village hall. And, most people I know who do that. And you looked at it, and I thought, oh, hey, that's a nice village hall, and I bought it. And I think people are going to come here and say, it's a nice village hall. And I don't think that's going to make their decision or not make their decision, but it will be a nice village hall. And I think it's clear that we need to do something. We've gone pretty far down this path, and I think this is a really good thing to do. So I think it's going to be a good long-term investment for the village.
I agree with you, John, and every time you take, in the spring, the first or second time you go out on your boat after the winter, this renovation's taking place, this renovation's taking place, The only one I was really surprised of was the White House that burned down, almost looks exactly the same. But people are spending money, and they are either facelifting their places, adding on to their places. So I think you need to keep up with the times, and I, for one, and it's just my personal opinion, I love the metal roof. And I would love to put one in my house. It's contemporary, it's clean, it makes a statement. There's a house on the south side that has like a porch that's added on, and it's got a metal roof, and it looks gorgeous. It's really nice looking. So I agree. I think you can nickel and dime to death. Yeah, I agree. I didn't want to spend this much money either, but I also have been in a spot where we were doing some remodeling, and costs went a little high, so we nickel dime this, we nickel dime that. It's all said and done. 5 years later, I went back out and bought those items. Because you weren't happy with it. And I don't know if anybody else has ever done that, but so you've wasted your money the first round, and you thought even about shingles. Okay, if you're just talking materials, but what about the labor of taking the old one off, putting new one on, and doing it twice for the life of the metal roof? So people forget about labor. That's cost too. So
It's not going to be going down.
No. And it's I think in winter, the snow would just right off. I don't know. I think it looks great, and I think we ought to do it.
So let me ask you, it's a big decision, so I'm happy to have us keep discussing it as long as it takes people to feel good about whatever decision they're going to make here. But let me go to John, and then we'll see if we've got.
See where we're going to go
a
from
lot more
there?
new here.
I always love the way it puts it, go ahead and do what you want to do and hang yourself, I guess is what he's saying. I'm not sure. I was wondering if there is a friendly amendment or a direction to take here. We do have a number on the table for what we see. I've heard from the architect and the builder that there is a cut down that you can do with certain things, steel versus, I guess, three-dimensional and et cetera, which would be maybe number two that you could bring back. I don't know how much that cost would be to do that. And then I guess I'd push to Ed and say, so what's the number, Ed? Is it $275,000 that would make you comfortable? Or, what is the final cut down? We've got to give a number to say, okay, this is what the village is willing to spend. There's a consensus at that, and what would we get for $275,000?
I guess the thing that surprised me about it all is that I just thought that what was going to come back to us would be able to visibly see some of the old building. And when I look at all this, I mean, it's just, like I said, you know,
But that's the picture that we sent to the
Yeah, I
architect.
know. That's what we
That's
agreed
what
to.
council agreed to send to him to get proposals on. That's the picture.
and then, like I said, you know, all that on the front here. And like I said, you know, if, you know, to take off a metal roof and add, sure, you could save a few bucks here and there. I think the labor on a steel roof is more than on a shingle roof, but that's all, you know, that's not the point. I was hoping that we were gonna be, you know, with the exterior and the windows and, you know, at that time, that's what we were gonna do, and then, oh, we gotta have a bigger office space, probably do. Then, now we're putting a basement underneath because we don't have enough storage. Then the police department, it needs, obviously it does. Most of that interior stuff is pretty hard to argue against. It's just, like I said, you know, you can build a house and have everything you want inside and have vinyl siding, or you can have wood siding, or you can have brick. So, I mean, there's all kinds of options, but, you know, when I, all that metal roof over here, there's nothing behind that. It's just a frame with a metal roof and a little window in there. It serves no purpose other than to make the building look the way it looks. And I understand that that's the architect's job. This is his creation.
I would like to know if there, where the people that are most likely to dissent, what level of value did they put on design and aesthetics and so on? I mean, if any. And then like John says, I mean, at what number is good? Is it under 300? Is it 250? Is it 200? I mean, short of having, I mean, great if we had a rendering A and a rendering B, but we could, you know, hey, this is what I like, and this is what the other people like, you know. But like what Sharon said, you know, we all push forward based on that picture. So to come back now and say it's way too grandiose, I know that word wasn't used specifically, but you know, way extravagant, I think, was used. It just seems to be like like John said, okay, go ahead, you guys, hang yourselves, or something like that. I mean, it doesn't seem.
Well, and to be honest, if it is, I'm willing to stand for that. I mean, it's you know, that's why we get on council. We've got to make decisions about these things, and you know, when I sat and looked at it, and I've given it a lot of thought over the last few weeks, and I give it a lot of thought today. I've given it a lot of thought during this meeting, during discussions, and me, as village resident, as village taxpayer, I think this is a good use of our money. I think this is a good use of my tax money. I think it's a good long-term use. I think we're getting real value out of it. And I, as resident and taxpayer, think this is a good thing to proceed with. So that's when I looked at me with all that I know about the history of what we did, the numbers, the aesthetics, the history of our stucco, which we all agree we hate or dislike spending money on every year. I think it's a good project, and I think we should proceed with it.
I think with some of the comments that Ron's made, which John has made, I can appreciate what you're saying, and I think maybe I'm in a train of thought like Ed was thinking. I mean, we saw this, we said, yeah, go ahead with it, but I think it's one of these things, my old saying, the hurrieder I go, the behinder I get, and we said, oh, that's really great. Holy crap, that's a lot of money. You know, it's like, maybe we gave them direction when we shouldn't have given that kind of direction. I don't know. I think it's hard to put a value on it for the gingerbread or fluff or the foo-foo dust, as I call it. But, you know, if...
I think, though, Pat, we have put a value on this. We've said it's
Yeah,
somewhere probably 15 to maybe 20, maybe even 25% of it.
They don't have the dartboard. It's a little bit hard to come up with the number. Okay?
Right, but they've given us a pretty decent
They've
range
done
on
the
it.
dartboard,
And
too, I
on
know.
this project, that makes that somewhere around the level of $30,000 to $50,000 on it. I think we're still talking about, even if we got rid of a lot of the aesthetics, it's still the exterior parts of the project, not the other parts, the interior and the renovations. Right now, it's a $300,000 cost. It's still a $225,000, $250,000 project. It's a large project.
I'm not disputing that, okay? And whatever.
But 225 sounds a lot better than 400.
Well, 225 versus 300 to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. I mean, we're really talking about 75,000 a year, or 75,000 within the realm of that. Ed, I don't at all disagree that it costs more than I hoped it would.
Well, you got a motion on the table, it's been second, call for the vote.
All right, I think we're
I
getting
call
close
for-
to that
Call
vote.
for the vote.
I hear a call for the vote. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of calling for the vote?
Aye.
All right. Roll call vote?
Scott?
Yes.
Nedrow?
Yes.
Sekowitz?
No.
Miller?
No, sorry, in the village, the administrator and treasurer aren't actual members of council and vote. So it's not like the board of trustees.
Okay. McGee?
Yes.
Konvik?
Nope. He asked the treasurer.
Nagy?
No.
Kesnicki, yes.
And Kumbo?
Yes.
All right, we have a vote. Motion passes 5-2. Got a couple other things I wanted to mention, but thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dave, for all the work that's gone into this. Thank you, Builders, for your quote. Thank you, Mike, for a lot of work that's gone into this. It's been a long path to get here, and I really do appreciate the serious thought that's gone into it. I know Ed has put a lot of work into looking at alternatives, and Ed, I really do want to thank you for that, because I think that helped to give me perspective on it, even though I ended up voting not the way I might have preferred. With that, we'll proceed. You know, I still do want to make sure you all talk, and if you can find an improvement within that budget, let's talk about it.
Thank you.
Mr. President, one thing I
yes.
don't think we asked the contractor, I didn't see it in the bid, is what kind of time frame are we talking about?
Good point.
As far as if a contract was awarded tomorrow, are we talking about 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 18 weeks? What are we talking about?
How long would it take to get a permit?
I think we can handle that.
Request. I think in our bid, we put, I believe it was 180 days.
Okay, I didn't see that, so I didn't know that.
That kind of depends on what they're doing, right?
I mean, yeah, that's based upon the way they bid it and the specs that are in place right now.
A little bit about the weather.
But
We'll get it done before the snow flies.
presumably, we can get this done before we've got snow outside.
Yeah, okay,
That's good for me, too.
I think it's desirable all around. Okay, do we have anything further on that item? I did want to ask, I think the administrator might have an update for us on a couple items. Did you?
We treated the lake today, if you weren't aware. And
Good to
the permit for aeration, we're working still with the DEQ, and I did call Senator Colwell today for a little help on that. So hopefully he'll be able to help tomorrow.
Should we set up a meeting? I mean, the water board has been up there a few dozen times, I remember, in the past.
Let me see what he
I think
says
we can gather
tomorrow.
enough forces to go up there and have a personal presence and better understand the situation.
Let's see what we get from Kowal,
Yeah.
but,
He's-
I understand.
He said he would contact the director, so.
yeah, I think it's time to start.
Putting some pressure on.
Pushing, yeah.
Are we getting any closer for the augmentation well?
It's on
Bless
there,
you.
the DPW's list of projects, but
Okay. And while we're open here, what was the end up with that Quonset hut on Oakview? Did that pass?
yes,
Is there electrical in there now?
I don't know if there's
Okay.
electrical in there, but it did pass inspection.
Okay,
You got his occupancy permit.
yes.
Occupancy. Since you can't get into it, I assume he's
If you
occupied.
can't drive into it, that's true.
Well,
The biggest shed in the
fence goes
village.
up and down. That's it. Anything else?
Nope.
You know, just a thought that crossed my mind on the metal roof. I've heard advertisements on the radio that American Metal Roof, I don't know if that's what they're gonna use.
50 years.
But if they allow you the possibility of taking pictures and advertising, using it in the brochures, they'll give you a discount. Whatever, it's just a thought. Just a thought.
I leave it in the capable hands of our administrator and our engineer and our architect and the builders. Further discussion?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn,
Second.
Spitz. Second, Combo. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No? We are adjourned.
So this was just